In the past few days, the art world has quietly said goodbye to some familiar faces, artists who have appeared on stage, on screen, and in the memories of many generations of audiences. Some brought laughter, some left behind unforgettable melodies. Some spent their entire lives telling stories that made us reflect. Today, we will look back on the lives of these recently departed artists and the marks they left on popular culture. If you appreciate tribute content like this, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining us. Now let's begin. Chuck Norris, a world karate champion and action star associated with the series Walker, Texas Ranger, died on March 19, 2026, at the age of 86. The information was confirmed by his family and widely reported by multiple news outlets. His passing marks the end of a journey spanning several decades in both martial arts and cinema. Born in 1940 in Ryan, Oklahoma, Norris began his career as a professional karate fighter. He won multiple championship titles and was recognized as one of the leading figures in American martial arts. From this foundation, he entered the entertainment industry, having trained martial arts for many celebrities before transitioning into film. Norris became widely known through action films such as Way of the Dragon, where he faced Bruce Lee, along with works like Missing in Action and The Delta Force. He built an image of strong, determined, and few spoken characters, becoming a familiar icon of action films in the 1980s. From 1993 to 2001, he took on the leading role in the series Walker, Texas Ranger. This role helped him reach a new generation of audiences and solidify his position on television. Later, his image continued to spread in popular culture through the Chuck Norris facts phenomenon. Chuck Norris is remembered not only as an actor, but also as someone who brought discipline and personal strength into each of his roles. His legacy continues to be recognized as part of the history of action films and popular culture. Willie Colón, one of the important figures of New York salsa music, passed away on February 21, 2026, at the age of 75, according to information reported in the press. His passing closes a journey spanning several decades, closely tied to the formation and development of modern salsa. Born in 1950 in the Bronx, New York, into a Puerto Rican family, Colón was exposed early to Latin music through the environment of the immigrant community. He began his career at a very young age, quickly attracting attention with a powerful trombone style characterized by a raw and direct sound. This was also the factor that helped him create a distinct identity, different from the traditional salsa of that time. Willie Colón's name is closely associated with his collaboration with singer Héctor Lavoe in the early years of his career. Their works were not only commercially successful, but also clearly reflected the life of the Latin community in New York. Later, a major turning point came when he collaborated with Rubén Blades. The album Siembra, created from this collaboration, became the best-selling salsa album of all time, while also opening a new direction for the genre, combining music with social themes and storytelling. Throughout his career, Colón was not only a performing artist, but also a producer and a shaper of sound. His style, with thick and powerful trombone sections, once sparked debate, but eventually became a new standard in urban salsa. The passing of Willie Colón leaves a significant void in Latin music. His legacy lies not only in recordings, but also in the way he redefined salsa as a voice of life and identity. Kiki Shepard, a familiar face of the program Showtime at the Apollo, has passed away at the age of 70, according to confirmation from her family reported by the press. Her passing closes a long journey closely associated with one of the most important music stages of the Black artist community in the United States. Born in 1955, Shepherd began her career in the entertainment industry as a model and later expanded into television. She became widely known when she served as co-host of Showtime at the Apollo from 1987 to 2002. For more than a decade, she appeared regularly on stage, becoming an inseparable part of the program. At Apollo, Shepherd did not only introduce performers, she maintained the rhythm of the show, connecting the audience with live performances. Her presence helped shape the atmosphere of the stage, a place where many young artists were introduced to the public for the first time. In the context of the program being considered an important platform for black talents, Shepherd's role carried meaning beyond that of a conventional hosting position. In addition to Apollo, she also participated in acting and television production, but her most significant mark remained tied to her long period on that stage. The passing of Kiki Shepherd is not only the loss of an individual, but also the absence of a figure who was closely and consistently connected with a distinctive cultural space. Her legacy lies in her steady presence and the way she helped keep that stage vibrant over many years. Sandy Wernick, a veteran Hollywood manager and longtime collaborator of comedian Adam Sandler, has died at the age of 86. The information was confirmed after Adam Sandler posted a tribute on social media, and it was quickly reported by entertainment news outlets. Over several decades working in Hollywood, Wernick was a familiar figure behind the scenes. He began his career in the 1970s, participating in comedy television programs and various entertainment projects, gradually building his position in the industry without appearing in front of the public. His name is closely associated with Adam Sandler. From the early years of Sandler's career, Wernick served as a manager and advisor, accompanying him through his development from stand-up comedy to film. He not only supported career direction, but also contributed to the formation of many important projects in Sandler's journey. In addition to management, Wernick was also involved in production and content development. He occasionally appeared in small roles in Sandler's films, brief appearances that reflected a long-standing relationship. In his tribute, Sandler called him a loyal friend, always present and supportive throughout his career. Sandy Wernick was not a public-facing figure in the media. However, within the entertainment industry, he was regarded as someone who dedicated most of his life to supporting artists and contributing to comedy productions that were well received by audiences. His passing marks the end of the journey of a quiet figure, but one whose influence endured across many decades of Hollywood. Augie Myers, the keyboard and accordion player associated with Sir Douglas Quintet and Texas Tornadoes, has passed away at the age of 83. The information was confirmed by his family. According to an article published on AOL, Myers' passing marks the end of a musical journey spanning several decades, closely tied to shaping the distinctive sound of Tex-Mex and Texas rock. Born in 1941 in San Antonio, Texas, where musical styles strongly intersect, Myers was exposed early to piano and organ. He was influenced by rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and Mexican music. This combination gradually became the foundation of a personal style that was clear and easily recognizable. Myers' name became widely known when he joined the Sir Douglas Quintet, the band founded by Doug Sahm. On the song She's About a Mover, 1965, put the group on the American music map, in which Myers' Vox organ became a defining element, a sound both raw and rhythmic, connecting different musical styles. After that, he continued to collaborate with Sahm in Texas Tornadoes, alongside Freddie Fender and Flaco Jimenez. The group quickly established its position in the Tex-Mex genre and won a Grammy Award in 1991 for Best Mexican-American Album. Throughout his career, Augie Myers was not only a performing musician, He contributed to expanding the scope of Tex-Mex, bringing this music to multiple generations of audiences. His organ melodies, simple yet distinctive, are still considered an inseparable part of Texas music. Actress and model Annabelle Schofield, known for her appearance in the television series Dallas, has passed away at the age of 62. Her family confirmed that Schofield died on March 7, 2026, after a period of cancer treatment. The information was shared by relatives with the media and was subsequently reported by multiple news outlets. Born in 1963 in London, England, Schofield began her career as a model in the 1980s. She worked in major fashion capitals such as London, Paris, Milan, and New York, quickly becoming a familiar face in the international fashion industry. She later transitioned into acting, taking part in several television and film projects. Her role in the series Dallas, a well-known American program that aired from 1978 to 1991, was her most notable mark, helping her become widely recognized by audiences. Now, in later years, Schofield stepped away from the entertainment industry and moved into the field of nutrition and wellness in Los Angeles. She worked as a health consultant and lifestyle coach. Annabelle Schofield is remembered as a friendly and dedicated person, always willing to change in order to pursue new directions in life. Her journey left a quiet but clear mark in the memories of colleagues and audiences. Roswell, New Mexico, November 11, 1962. A quiet desert town where time seems to slow down. But from the beginning, the life of Demetria Jean Harmon, later known as Demi Moore, moved in the opposite direction. She was born into a family already broken. Her father, Charles Foster Harmon Sr., an Air Force serviceman, left after a 2-month marriage with her mother, Virginia King, who was just 18. When Moore was born, he was gone. No memory, no presence, only an absence that existed from the start. 3 months later, Virginia remarried Dan Gines, a newspaper advertising salesman. His work meant constant relocation. The family moved from place to place, never staying long enough to create stability. In 1967, her younger brother Morgan was born, but the growing family did not bring balance, only more pressure into an already unstable life. Moore's childhood was shaped less by events than by atmosphere. Scarcity, instability, and neglect. Photographer Bob Gardner later recalled, "She looked malnourished, not exactly abused, but neglected. That look in her eyes was haunting." Her body, too, carried its own struggles. She had a crossed eye and underwent 2 surgeries at a young age. At the same time, she suffered from kidney dysfunction. These conditions did not pass, they stayed, becoming part of her early life. There was no way around them, only endurance. At 13, she discovered a truth that shifted everything. A marriage certificate revealed that her parents had married in February 1963 after she was born in 1962. The man she called father was not her biological father. But no explanation followed. The realization stood on its own. At 14, she left Roswell to live with her grandmother for 6 months, a rare period of relative stability. Then came another move to Washington State, near Seattle, and soon after, West Hollywood, California, where her mother worked in magazine distribution. By 15, another experience marked her life, one not publicly spoken about at the time, but later acknowledged by Moore as deeply impactful. It involved Basil Dumas, 49, the landlord where she was living. There were claims he had arrangements with her mother to gain access to her, though Moore herself said she could not confirm this. No clear conclusion, only a memory that remained. By then, her life had already taken shape through instability, a fractured family, constant movement, early health struggles, and truths revealed too soon. Before becoming Demi Moore, she grew up without fixed ground. Nothing stayed long, no certainty held, and no one remained long enough to make it stable. In 1978, at the age of 16, Demi Moore left Fairfax High School while still in her junior year. No clear plan, just a decisive choice, and she did not return. She moved in with Tom Dunstan, a 28-year-old guitarist. The rhythm of her life changed immediately. No more classrooms or familiar structures, but a different world, faster, more direct, closer to adult life. During the day, Moore worked as a receptionist at 20th Century Fox. A small position, but enough to bring her closer to the center of the film industry. At the same time, she signed a contract with elite modeling agency. Modeling was not the destination, but it was a door, a way to appear, to be seen, to test how far she could go. In 1979, at the Troubadour nightclub in Los Angeles, she met Freddie Moore, a musician, leader of the band Boy, and the relationship developed quickly. In 1980, Freddie finalized his divorce from his previous wife. 6 weeks later, they got married. Demi was 18 at the time. She took her husband's surname, Moore, as her stage name, a new identity. Not to hide the past, but to start again in a different way. During the period 1980 to 1981, Moore became directly involved in music. She co-wrote 3 songs and appeared in the video It's Not a Rumor by the band New Cats. Her first royalty payments came from this, small, but enough to mark that she had begun creating her own value. Film came almost in parallel. In 1981, she appeared in Choices, playing the girlfriend of the main character. A year later, she continued with Parasite, 1982, a 3D science fiction film. The film did not create major impact and grossed only about $7 million, but it was enough to keep Moore moving forward. Before that, she had appeared on television. In ABC's General Hospital, Moore played reporter Jackie Templeton, a role that lasted until 1983, enough to keep her name consistently present on screen, even if not yet prominent. At the same time, her personal life continued to shift. In 1983, she and Freddie Moore separated. In September 1984, she filed for divorce. By August 7, 1985, everything was officially over. In between, Moore had a relationship with Timothy Hutton. Then came Emilio Estevez, her co-star in St. Elmo's Fire and Wisdom. They got engaged. A wedding was set for December 6, 1986. Everything seemed to be on track, but it stopped abruptly. A $2 million paternity lawsuit against Estevez emerged, and the wedding plans ended right there. No ceremony, no complete ending, and just a relationship that stopped halfway. While relationships came and went, Moore's career began to show clearer progress. In 1984, Blame It on Rio and No Small Affair pulled her out of obscurity. The Los Angeles Times called her the discovery of the film, describing her as young, intense, wild, comic, and genuinely moving. It was not encouragement for a newcomer. It felt more like a signal that Moore was not just appearing, but beginning to be seen. In 1985, St. Elmo's Fire brought her closer to the public. The film was critically negative, but commercially successful. Moore, along with the young cast, was labeled the Brat Pack, a label she later described as demeaning. But regardless of how it was named, that group defined a new generation, and Moore was part of it. In 1986, About Last Night appeared as a clear turning point, not loud, but deep enough to change how people saw her. In the role of a woman trying to hold on to a relationship amid very ordinary conflicts, Moore was no longer a promising young face. She began to control the rhythm of her performance. Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and wrote, "There is not a single romantic note she doesn't have to play in this movie, and she plays them all perfectly." After the film, better scripts began to come to her, not because of luck, but because she had proven her talent and her appeal in acting. In 1987, Demi Moore married Bruce Willis, one of the rapidly rising faces of Hollywood at that time. Their relationship quickly became a focus of attention, not only because of fame, but because of the speed at which everything happened. And but behind the observation of the media, life continued to be built in their own way. In the following years, their 3 daughters were born, one after another: Rumer Glenn Willis, 1988, Scout LaRue Willis, 1991, and Tallulah Bell Willis, 1994. Family took shape not separate from her career, but alongside it, between filming schedules, between projects that followed one after another. By 1990, everything changed completely. Ghost was not just a successful film, it was a phenomenon. Its global revenue exceeded $505 million, becoming the highest-grossing film of the year. In 1991, it continued as the most-rented home video. The story of a woman drawn into a world between life and death, guided by a love that had not ended, reached a wider audience than any of Moore's previous roles. But the scene between her and Patrick Swayze, at the pottery wheel with Unchained Melody playing, quickly became one of the most iconic images in cinema. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. Moore received a Golden Globe nomination and a Saturn Award nomination for Best Actress. But the impact of Ghost did not stop at awards. Her short hairstyle in the film quickly became popular, a small detail, but it reflected the level of influence she had begun to hold. In 1991, Moore appeared in 3 films: Nothing But Trouble, Mortal Thoughts, and The Butcher's Wife. Her salary for The Butcher's Wife reached $2.5 million, a significant figure at the time. Along with her status came corresponding working conditions. On set, she was served by her own system: an assistant, a dialect coach, a massage therapist, a spiritual advisor, a nanny for her daughter, and a bodyguard, in addition to the standard crew. One remark was recorded: "Demi is the definition of a movie star. Everything revolves around that." From 1992 to 1994, Moore entered a stable peak period. A Few Good Men, Indecent Proposal, and Disclosure were released in succession. All 3 opened at #1 at the box office. She quickly became a top strategic choice for studios. In less than a decade, Moore had gone from an unknown actress to the center of the film industry. And by this point, she was no longer chasing opportunities. She had become part of how Hollywood operated. In 1995, when Demi Moore was at a position many considered irreplaceable, The Scarlet Letter appeared, and did not deliver what Hollywood expected. The film, a free adaptation of Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel, quickly faced a wave of criticism. Moore's performance was judged as not up to the mark, even described as limited. It was not her first failure in the industry, but it was the first time doubts began to be directed straight at her. A year later, in 1996, Moore made a bolder choice: Striptease, and with it, an unprecedented number, a $12.5 million salary, the highest ever paid to an actress at that time. This figure immediately became the focal point, not only because of its value, but because of what it represented. The film grossed $113 million worldwide, but the revenue was not enough to soften the critical response. Moore was harshly criticized. Brian D. Johnson called her performance a display of vanity. She received the Razzie Award for Worst Actress. But the impact of striptease did not stop at the film itself. It created a reverse domino effect in the industry. The salaries of other actresses rose simultaneously. Sharon Stone from $6 million to $7 million, Jodie Foster from $7 million to $8 million, Meg Ryan from $6 million to $8 million, and Julia Roberts from $12 million to $13 million. A personal decision, but one that triggered a shift across the entire system. That same year, Moore appeared in another project, quieter but more enduring, HBO's If These Walls Could Talk. The anthology film about abortion attracted 6.9 million viewers, the highest number for HBO at that time. Moore not only starred, but also participated as a producer. She received Golden Globe and Emmy nominations, but 1997 was the real test. G.I. Jane, directed by Ridley Scott, placed Moore in a completely different role. A woman undergoing Navy SEAL training, an environment traditionally reserved for men. To prepare, she shaved her head and went through 2 weeks of intense military training. The film grossed $98.4 million worldwide. The response, once again, was divided. Moore continued to receive the Razzie Award for Worst Actress, but unlike striptease, her performance in G.I. Jane was positively evaluated by many critics. Looking back at this period, Moore made a brief remark. "Striptease made me betray women. G.I. Jane made me betray men." From 1995 to 1997, Moore remained at the center of the film industry. But that position was no longer as stable as before. Bigger decisions, stronger reactions, and for the first time success and controversy appeared at the same time, inseparable. The peak was still there, but its surface had begun to change. There are periods in life that do not begin with a major turning point, but with a prolonged silence that almost no one notices. For Demi Moore, the period starting in 1998 opened in that way, no longer under the spotlight, but in the spaces between decisions. In 1998, she and Bruce Willis announced their separation. A marriage that had once been at the center between two major Hollywood stars came to an end. Not loud, but clear. In the same year, her mother passed away from a brain tumor. These two events happened in rapid succession, almost at the same time, causing Moore's emotional state to collapse. In 2000, her divorce from Bruce Willis was finalized. However, their relationship remained close enough to maintain each other's presence in the lives of their 3 daughters, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. During the period from 1999 to 2002, Moore was in a relationship with Oliver Whitcomb, a martial arts instructor. Not much information was made public. There was no major attention from the media. The relationship took place quietly without display. On the career side, the year 2000 marked an attempt to return with Passion of Mind, the first English-language film by director Alain Berliner. Moore played a woman with dissociative identity disorder, a role that required clear separation between psychological states. Her performance received positive responses, but the film failed to attract audiences. Some critics said it was persistently slow. During this time, Moore chose to step back, not completely disappearing, but actively turning down many projects. She moved to Haley, Idaho, focusing on taking care of her children. In 2003, Moore returned to the screen with Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle. This time, she did not appear as a purely central character, but as a villain. The film grossed $259.1 million worldwide. But what drew attention was not entirely the role. A short scene, Moore in a bikini, created a strong reaction from the media. At the age of 40, she appeared with a body considered almost unchanged from her youth. Also in 2003, she began a relationship with Ashton Kutcher, an actor much younger than her. The relationship quickly became a subject of the media. Not long after they started dating, Moore became pregnant. It seemed like the beginning of a new chapter. But in the 6th month, complications occurred in the pregnancy, and she did not have the chance to see her child. On September 24, 2005, Moore and Kutcher got married, and the wedding had about 150 guests, including Bruce Willis, a detail showing that past relationships had not completely disappeared. In the following years, they appeared as a closely watched couple, but not separated from the pressure of constant observation. By November 2011, after months of media speculation, Moore announced the end of the marriage. After more than a year of separation, on December 21, 2012, Ashton Kutcher filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Moore responded in March 2013, requesting spousal support and legal fees. On November 26, 2013, the divorce was finalized. During the period 1998 to 2013, Demi Moore did not leave the film industry, but she was no longer at its center. Attention gradually shifted to her personal life, relationships that came and went, losses and the pauses she chose herself. This was not a decline, it was a step away from her previous trajectory, where she did not try to hold on to the image she once had, but let it settle on its own. In 2008, Moore tried a different role. She directed the short film Streak, featuring her daughter, Rumor Willis. This was not a large-scale project, nor was it widely promoted, but it showed a shift. Moore was no longer only in front of the camera. She began to experiment with storytelling from behind it. In 2009, she appeared in The Joneses, a comedy drama about consumer culture and artificial lifestyles. Moore's role, an undercover marketer living within a fake family, was positively received. Critics noted that the film benefited from timely satire, and her performance brought a necessary sharpness. That same year, Moore participated in 24-hour plays on Broadway at the American Airlines Theatre. A brief appearance, but enough to show she maintained a connection to acting across different forms. In 2010, she took part in Bunraku, an action film with an experimental tone where she played a courtesan and a femme fatale with an unclear past. Moore described it as a big action adventure. However, the film did not make a significant impact. Choices like this became familiar during this period, diverse, but not always effective. By 2011, Margin Call brought a clearer highlight. In the role of a risk management executive at an investment bank, set against the backdrop of the 2008 financial crisis, Moore was part of an ensemble cast including Kevin Spacey, Simon Baker, and Paul Bettany. The film was well received, particularly for its cold and realistic approach to the financial system. The cast received multiple nominations for ensemble acting. Moore was not at the center of the story, but her presence helped maintain the rhythm of the overall structure. However, a general assessment of Moore's career during this period gradually took shape. She moved toward smaller films and smaller roles. Not due to a lack of ability, but because her position in the industry had changed. From 2012 onward, Moore appeared in a series of supporting or secondary roles. In LOL 2012 and Very Good Girls 2013, she played mothers, characters no longer at the center of conflict. In 2017, in Blind, she continued with the image of a neglected wife positioned at the edge of a larger story. That same year, Rough Night brought another role, one half of a partner-swapping couple. The film grossed $47.3 million worldwide. Moore's role attracted attention but did not alter her overall position in the industry. In 2018, Moore appeared in Love Sonia, a Hindi-language drama about human trafficking, and Corporate Animals 2019, where she played an unethical female CEO in a dark comedy setting. These projects continued to show diversity in her choices, but did not create a breakout moment. Also in 2019, Moore published her memoir Inside Out. The book quickly reached #1 on the New York Times bestseller list in both combined print and ebook and hardcover categories. This time, the story was no longer told through characters but directly by her. Childhood, relationships, and fractured periods all were presented not as justification but as a personal record. Throughout the period from 2008 to 2022, Moore did not disappear from the screen, but she was no longer at its center. Roles came steadily, but did not dominate. Projects appeared, but did not redefine her career. It was a different mode of existence, not a peak, not a decline, but a prolonged quiet phase, where an actress continued to work but was no longer pulled into the orbit she once stood at the center of. Entering the 2020s, Demi Moore did not return in the conventional sense, not a sudden surge, but a steady, intentional presence, as if she understood exactly where she stood and no longer needed to prove it. In 2020, she appeared in Songbird, a thriller set against a pandemic backdrop. The role was not highly prominent, but it marked her presence in a shifting phase of cinema. In the same year, Moore stepped into a different space, podcasting. Dirty Diana, a project she both produced and starred in, was recorded from her own bathroom. Not a curious detail, but a deliberate choice, a private space, private stories. Moore saw this as an opportunity to explore themes of sexuality with a more open, direct approach, but without exhibitionism. In 2022, Please Baby, Please brought her back to the screen in a less predictable way. And Moore's role, a peculiar woman existing outside familiar molds, did not occupy much screen time, but left a clear impression. Some critics called her a wonder in this film, not because of the size of the role, but because of how she appeared, precise, restrained, and without the need for explanation. But it was not until 2024 that the return took on a clear form. The Substance, a body horror film directed by Coralie Fargit. Moore played an aging star who uses a black market drug to regain youth, a role that directly confronted her own public image, without avoidance, without softening. The film premiered at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival and quickly drew attention. The responses followed, this time in a different tone. The BBC called it her best film performance in decades. Time Out described Moore's performance as fearless, full of vulnerability and fragility. No longer debates about her choices, but recognition of how she used her own history as part of the role. The results came soon after. Moore won the Golden Globe for Best Actress, Musical or Comedy. This was followed by the Critics' Choice Award and the SAG Award for Best Actress. She also received nominations for the Academy Award and BAFTA in the same category. The industry's highest honors converging on her again after many years. In 2025, another form of recognition came from outside cinema. People magazine ranked her #1 on its list of the most beautiful people in the world. In the same year, she was included in Time magazine's list of the 100 most influential people. And not because of a single moment, but because of the entire trajectory. But if one looks only at those titles, the story would be incomplete. Alongside her career, Moore maintained another role, less visible on the screen, but directly impactful. Through the organization, Thorn, Digital Defenders of Children, she took part in efforts to combat child trafficking and abuse. According to a 2017 report, Thorn helped identify 5,894 victims of child sex trafficking and rescued 103 children from situations where their abuse had been recorded and distributed. By 2022, the organization had detected 824,466 files related to child sexual abuse and identified 1,895 victims. This is not the part most often mentioned when speaking about Moore, but it exists in parallel, steady, persistent, and independent of the cycles of cinema. But looking back across the entire journey, a remark from The Guardian in 2007 still seems to hold its weight. An indestructible persona with toughness, strength, and determination. Demi Moore did not return as an earlier version of herself. She did not need to. What appears in this phase is not repetition, but a continuation, slower, more precise, and no longer dependent on being at the center.